Welcome back to the channel. In the middle of the wild mountains, a man wakes up with no memory of who he is. He only knows that someone saved his life, but he doesn't know why he was injured. Meanwhile, his wife, who is desperately searching for her husband, is targeted by a criminal gang. Will his memory return in time, before it's too late? The sky had just brightened. The dew was still on the cassava leaves. Sin Nhat and her mother carried hoes to the field. Her husband had gone missing while on duty to arrest a drug trafficking gang, and there was still no news. She wanted to go look for him with the police comrades, but was refused. Although her heart was burning with worry, Sin Nhat still tried to keep her spirits up, waiting for news from the police. Unable to just sit and wait, she and her mother chose to go to the field and weed the cassava near the foot of the mountain, both to avoid suicidal thoughts and to have something to eat. A dark figure stood silently among the dense trees, his eyes fiercely watching every move of Sin Nhat and his mother. His face was sunburned, gaunt, and his beard grew long enough to cover his chin, as if he had been wandering in the jungle for months without leaving the cave. He didn't need to disguise himself because he wasn't afraid of being recognized. He was a member of the drug trafficking group that had been busted by the police, and he had sworn he would do everything to get revenge. He knew exactly who Sin Nhat was, the wife of the policeman who had caused his associates to suffer heavy losses in the last shipment. He had been following her for a long time, hiding in the forests around the village, like a beast stalking its prey. Every morning, he watched her every step to the field, remembering every moment the mother left, every moment Sin Nhat stood alone. This morning was the same. The sun was mild after a while of pulling weeds. The mother and daughter were tired. Sin Nhat was thirsty, so the mother immediately went to the nearby rock crevice to get some water for her. The space between the two of them was the golden opportunity he had been waiting for all these days. No longer hiding behind the bushes, he stepped out, each step decisive, but light as a ghost. The girl in front of him was completely unaware. His eyes were cold, his mouth slightly curled into a crooked smile. His hand tightly gripped the small bottle containing a pungent liquid anesthetic. Sin Nhat was absent-mindedly remembering. Before she could react, a steel-like arm had tightly gripped her from behind, a rough hand covering her mouth, preventing her from screaming. The pungent smell of anesthetic rushed straight into her nose. She struggled. Her legs kicked violently. Her hands tried to pull out of the terrible grip that was holding her, but her breath became shorter and shorter. Her eyes began to blur. She tried to struggle one last time. Her hand grabbed a clump of grass and then let go. Everything went dark. Her body went limp in the kidnapper's hands. Life gradually faded in silence. Only her rapid breathing remained and the other person's hands still tightly covering her. But in the deep forest, a long-bearded man was carrying a limp body on his back, quietly disappearing deeper inside. A nightmare had just begun, and this time, no one knew where Sin Nhat was. At the same time, Hang woke up in the pale light through the thatched roof. His head was dizzy, but he knew he was still alive. The sound of chickens clucking echoed in the yard. He stepped out and saw a girl in a pink shirt, jeans, and braided hair scattering rice for the chickens. She turned around when the door opened. Their eyes met. A quiet, strange moment, like they had known each other before. Hang stood still. His eyes quickly scanned the surrounding scenery. The forest, the thatched wall, the small stream in the distance, and her eyes the only thing that seemed non-threatening. He opened his mouth, his voice hoarse. The girl was silent and then told Hang to go inside first. Then she was silent for a few seconds and then softly replied, "I don't know. I just happened to find you lying unconscious near the edge of the forest. Your body was covered in wounds. I brought you here, that's all." Hang looked down at her hands, rough, scratched, but the hands of someone who was used to guns and bullets, not a farmer. He could clearly feel every beat of his heart beating like a drum in his chest. A part of him was wary, suspicious, but another part believed her. He spoke again, more slowly. "You saved me. Now we'll follow you." The girl laughed softly, somewhat surprised. Follow me for what? He didn't know, but he was sure of one thing: she was the only support in a world where he couldn't even recognize himself. Behind them, the forest was still rustling. Everything seemed peaceful, but in Hang's heart, a storm of memories was surging. After a moment of silence, the girl took out a baton. "When I picked you up, These were lying next to you, she said. I thought they might help you remember something. Hang picked up each item, turning them over and over, trying to connect them to whatever memories remained in her head. But the more she looked, the more confused she became. A helpless expression flashed across his face, then he shook his head silently. The girl looked at Hang's confused eyes, then smiled softly, her voice as light as the morning wind. It's okay. You'll remember it soon. She carefully wrapped up the old things, put them in a cloth bag, then turned to him and continued. You sit here and rest a little longer. I have to boil some herbs to sell at the market and ask the villagers if anyone knows you. Maybe I can help you find your relatives. He hesitated for a moment, then stood up. Although his mind was still blank, his body seemed to have its own memories. His hands were used to doing things. His legs refused to sit still. Let me help, he said briefly, not waiting for her to react before walking to her side. She was a little surprised, but did not stop him, just tilted her head and smiled lightly. The two of them quietly put the medicine in their bags together. In the simple house, there was only the sound of firewood crackling, the sound of boiling water, and glances filled with unanswered questions. When she finished, the girl turned to Hang and whispered, Let's go. Go down to the village and ask around. Maybe someone will recognize you. Hang nodded, following her on the small dirt road covered with dry leaves. Down to the village below, she led him to each house, each stall, asking the people. Everyone shook their heads, looked at Hang, then looked at each other. No one recognized him. Although his face was not unfamiliar, like a city person, there was still not a single memory that matched anyone here. The girl began to worry, and Hang remained silent the whole time, her eyes gradually becoming empty. It seemed that the fact that he was completely lost was weighing heavily on his mind. The sun was just starting to rise when the two returned home. The girl opened the door, turned to look at him, and smiled gently. You should go in and rest. I'll go to the market and buy you some clothes. It's not convenient to wear them like this. Hang looked back at the clothes she was wearing covered in mud, and realized she had been wearing them since she woke up. Hang only had time to nod. The wooden door closed behind her, leaving him alone in the quiet little house. Only about half an hour later, the girl returned, carrying a small cloth bag containing a few sets of clothes that still smelled of new fabric. As soon as she entered, she smiled and said, It's an afternoon market, so it's not crowded. I bought a few sets that fit my eyes. Try them on. Hang took them and nodded slightly. He walked into a corner of the small house, changing his old, torn clothes into a rough-colored shirt and simple brown pants. But just after changing, a sudden pain came and made him stop. His head was throbbing as if someone was stabbing every corner of his buried memories with a needle. Hang staggered, holding her head. The girl who was chopping herbal medicine heard the sound. She turned around and saw Hang lying curled up, her face pale, her hands clutching her temples. Panicked, she knelt down beside him, shaking him and calling, Brother, what's wrong with you? Without waiting long, she immediately jumped up and ran to the back of the house, where she was drying some medicinal leaves she often used. She grabbed a handful of leaves, ran into the kitchen to light a fire, and with trembling hands quickly burned a few medicinal leaves. She warmed the leaves, then turned around and quickly placed them on his forehead. A moment later, when the smoke began to subside, Hang's body gradually relaxed. The convulsions stopped. Only the sound of heavy breathing was no longer as painful as before. Let's watch the next episode together.